One thing that has always been a part of my life and always will be a part of my life is Lego. Before even playing my first video game, I built my first couple Lego sets. I was very big into Bionicle at first, but quickly moved on to other properties like Exoforce and Ninjago. With that one in particular, I've actually been keeping up with the show ever since I was in middle school, believe it or not. Lego sets would also serve as my introduction to various film franchises with licensed properties like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Pirates of the Caribbean. Before even watching those films, I was not only building the Lego sets based on scenes from within, but playing their Lego video game counterparts as well. With a majority of them being developed by Traveler's Tales, most Lego video games often follow the same underlying formula of exploring areas, solving puzzles, and performing very straightforward combat either by yourself or with a friend. My favorite part about all of these games was going out of my way to unlock the playable characters, man. Depending on the game, I would spend an entire day just inputting whatever cheat codes I could find online or in those cheat code books they used to sell at book fairs. In LEGO Star Wars 3, for example, there's a cheat code where you can unlock Starkiller from the Force Unleashed. So friggin' cool. It's probably also the only threequel the poor guy will ever show up in, if we're gonna be honest. And now for the topic of today's video, LEGO Horizon Adventures. Definitely not something any of us were expecting to happen. I think it's the first LEGO game to be based solely on a video game franchise instead of like a film, television series, or superhero universe. Yes, there was LEGO Dimensions, which prominently featured worlds and levels based on video game franchises like Sonic and Portal, but this was an entire video game primarily using a different video game as its basis for the entirety of the game, not just specific sections. I'm admittedly not all that familiar when it comes to the mainline Horizon games. They tend to mainly release on PlayStation consoles, but some of the games did release on PC. From what information I've gathered, it's a series with both supporters and detractors for various reasons. Some enjoy the mainline games for being fun open-world adventures with badass robot animals and dinosaurs, while others find the series to be too derivative of games like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in how certain gameplay concepts are executed. Again, I haven't played the main game, so I really can't comment on that personally. On top of this, detractors also accuse the series of being publisher Sony's industry plant. This means that its success as a series supposedly comes more from Sony pushing it to be the next big thing, rather than people genuinely showing interest and investment. I do gotta admit, if I was trying to artificially inflate the popularity of a franchise I owned, I'd definitely give it a LEGO game spinoff. Just saying. And that's honestly been a big complaint about this specific game ever since it was announced. Many believe that it solely exists to make Horizon out to be a massive franchise that everyone cares about. I've heard a ton of people argue that it doesn't even make sense from the standpoint of finding a target demographic, because what kid is going to be interested in a LEGO-fied version of a somewhat gritty PlayStation franchise? While I feel that argument makes sense on paper, I don't realistically think a kid is going to see the cover of this game and go,
I'm afraid that my unfamiliarity with this pre-existing series of games for the video media prevents me from having any enjoyment that can be derived from this experience.
No, they're gonna see the Lego robot dinosaurs and be like, oh, cool, Mom! Buy me the game with the Lego T-Rex! I also want to bring up the fact that I played Lego Indiana Jones when I was around 12 years old before even seeing a glimpse of what any of the characters looked like in live action. I mean, imagine the surprise 12-year-old me had when I realized Molaram wasn't white! When it comes to Star Wars as well, I'm definitely sure it was the same story for a lot of current big-time fans who got introduced to it through the LEGO Complete Saga duology as kids. Even without putting the games into consideration, I have friends who want nothing at all to do with Star Wars except for collecting the LEGO sets because they're just that cool. That's just how powerful LEGO can be. Prior familiarity is immediately thrown out the window because what ultimately matters most is that you're having fun, both physically with the toys and digitally with the games. Now let's talk about this stupid game already. I'm 10 paragraphs into this script and I haven't even started playing it until now. LEGO Horizon Adventure's story is an adaptation of Horizon Zero Dawn. the first mainline game in the series. In a post-apocalyptic world that's been overrun by these intimidating animal-like machines, you follow a young orphan woman named Aloy as she sets out to both discover the truth behind her mysterious past and put a stop to the sun-worshipping cult leader Helis as he seeks to bury the world in scorching sunlight, tearing down trees and leaving behind pollution in his wake, under the guidance of an ominous red entity known only as the Buried Shadow. Aiding her in her journey is a group of friends, starting with Varl, a hunter who sets out to prove himself as a hero, Tirsa, an old woman who's the leader of the Nora tribe, and Aaron, a dude with a big hammer who is obsessed with donuts. That's legitimately his most defining trait. I'm actually wondering whether or not he's as obsessed with donuts in the more serious mainline game. While I can't comment on how authentically it may or may not portray the story of Zero Dawn, it's still pretty clear to me that they most likely dumbed down or left out a couple of aspects to make the story more appropriate for all ages. As a result, you get something with only a tinge of drama and a lot of comedy. A big staple of LEGO games, whether they're stories or adaptations or original tales, is that they almost always like to present events in a more humorous way. In my opinion, LEGO City Undercover was hands down the funniest LEGO game. No, the funniest video game in general I've ever played.
Are you free, man?
No, I am not Freeman. His lawyers might be watching.
By comparison, Horizon Adventure's story honestly just made me chuckle at most. It's one of those cases where I can acknowledge that the humor is still very well written, but just not enough to make me laugh out loud. The only time I did laugh out loud was when Helis said the word ass in a cutscene. It wasn't even that the joke itself was all that funny, I was just so taken aback by the fact that I heard a LEGO minifigure say ass. I wouldn't say the humor was outright bad at all, but I do feel that it was at its worst whenever they tried to break the fourth wall and be all meta. These specific jokes seem to be very influenced by the self-aware humor of 2014's The Lego Movie, an awesome film, especially by this LEGO Nuts standards. Unfortunately, I believe it was one of the catalysts for nearly every other piece of media afterwards following suit with their own take on self-awareness. So it just got really annoying really quick.
Aloy, an amazing video game lead. And since orphans in stories always bring trouble, that made the villagers a little nervous. You're not here to listen to me go on and on. This is a game, not an audiobook.
Alright, Rost, I get it. You know you're in a game. Ha 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 ha, so funny. The quality of the humor aside, it does help give the characters a decent level of charm. This isn't exactly the deepest friendship on display, but they really do feel like a group of buddies supporting each other and toughing it out for the sake of the world. Being developed by Guerrilla Games and Studio Gobo instead of the usual LEGO game developers, Traveler's Tales, the gameplay of Horizon Adventures consists of battling both machines and sun cultists in an isometric point of view while also exploring these absolutely gorgeous environments made entirely out of Lego bricks. Between missions, you're using the Lego studs you collect to purchase buildings and various decor in order to customize your home base, the Nora village of Mother's Heart. On top of this, you can also use your studs to buy various costumes for the playable cast. Combat is split between 4 characters. Aloy uses her bow and arrows to attack enemies. Tapping the attack button fires the arrows at a short range, while holding the button allows for Aloy to aim more precisely and fire at a longer distance. Varl uses his spear, which, funny enough, always fires at a long distance range, regardless of whether you're tapping or holding the button. Tirsa grabs a bunch of random garbage from what I think is her purse, and just chucks it at enemies, causing explosions. Damn, don't mess with this granny. Everything she owns is a bomb. Lastly, Erend, who, surprisingly enough, is the only close-range fighter with his massive hammer. My favorite character ended up being Varl, because he honestly just feels like a better version of Aloy on account of him throwing his spear significantly farther than Aloy shoots her arrows. The spear even has this cool drilling effect whenever it hits an enemy. Tirsa's kind of fun if you love someone with explosives, but she throws them at such a short range that you need to hold the attack button and aim more times than you'd like just to throw her explosives far. Playing as Aaron for a bit was actually kind of refreshing on account of him not being projectile based like the other three. But yeah, I mostly played as Varl because his far-reaching spear was just so much more convenient than the weapons of the others. Going back to customizing Mother's Heart, I absolutely love that you could make the whole place look like a Ninjago dojo. I basically prioritized getting as much Ninjago decorations as I could. And as soon as I found out they had Ninjago costumes, I made sure every playable character was cosplaying as the ninja. This meant every cutscene ended up looking like they were massive Ninjago nerds. I also went out of my way to unlock the Sora costume, not Kingdom Hearts Sora, Ninjago Sora, who, funny enough, is an actual character in the game as well, giving you a side quest to accomplish on the community board. Let's see. She wants us to kill a bunch of machines using nothing but barrels in order to prove that they're the best way to fight machines? Sora, you're the elemental master of technology. You can literally use your elemental powers to single-handedly tear machines apart and even rebuild them into something entirely new. Why do you care so much if they're killed by barrels specifically? Look, I'm excited for the new Donkey Kong 2, but you gotta be realistic here. Anyways, a lot of your enjoyment of this game is gonna come down to how much you care about the customization and things you can do outside of combat, because if you really don't care about it, and you would rather ignore it entirely, it's going to be a very repetitive experience. And not to say that the combat isn't fun and creative, but it'll get old real quick if you don't occupy yourself with something else. I think what this game really needs are more puzzle-focused sections to help break up the monotony. The most you get are these cauldron areas with very light platforming and quote-unquote puzzles that only involve throwing a barrel to a switch. To summarize, LEGO Horizon Adventures isn't perfect, but still a decent experience if you're as big into LEGO as I am. Its simple gameplay does make it perfect as a budget title for kids that love playing with LEGO as well. After all, who can beat the low price of a $60 game? $60?! You'd have to be a moron to pay $60 for this! Alright, I know I made a whole stink about, kids are gonna love the Lego dinos. You don't need to be a Horizon fan. What parent is gonna spend $60 on a Lego game for their kid? At that point, they'd rather get them a $60 physical Lego set. As soon as they announced the price, I knew right away that this was gonna go on sale in only a few months. The copy I used to play the game for this review was from an Amazon seller who was asking for $25. If you're patient enough, you could probably wait until it goes down to $15, because I can totally see that happening. I went into this game trying my best to see it on its own, because a lot of the other reviews make many comparisons to previous LEGO games by Traveler's Tales. For what it is, I don't think it's a bad game. At worst, it's overly repetitive since it focuses too much on the combat and not enough on what can be done outside of that. A good basis that can be expanded upon in a sequel. A couple of the TT games launched at $60 as well, and sure enough, you can get them for dirt cheap nowadays. But the couple I played at the very least had loads of content to explore and spend hours upon hours on. Not every $60 game needs hundreds of hours of content to justify their price, of course, but Horizon Adventures just isn't substantial enough on its own to justify such a ludicrous launch price. Again, I enjoyed the game, but I can't guarantee that I'd be as positive about it if I had spent as much as $60 on it. If you're interested in playing it, please get it at a half off at most, because it just isn't worth the base price. I'm gonna end this video with a very heartfelt message. Never buy a LEGO game at launch. They're fine games, but they always go on sale. Alright, peace out.